So tonight, really thrilled to introduce you to the author, best-selling author, Jo Piazza. And we also, because we're dealing with people doing misinformation and disinformation, we have our expert, another person who I fell in love with the first time I saw her on national TV, Jess McIntosh. So tonight I've got two of my favorite people here on this event, and I'm thrilled that they're joining us and hope we can all learn a lot. So let's just jump in. Jo, your current book is called Everyone is Lying to You. So just start right there. Who's doing the lying when it comes to the trad wife influencers?
You know, the title of this book really came first. And I've been reporting on influencers and social media content for 5 years now. I've been following the trad wife trend for about 2 years. And at first I was hoping it was just kind of a blip, right? We're seeing these quote unquote traditional women in their traditional gender roles. You can kind of see the vibe on the cover of the book. We've got we've got the dress, we've got the pie, we've got the knife because everyone's lying to you. But the thing to know about these women is that they're cosplaying this kind of Laura Ingalls Wilder, prairie chic, 1950s sitcom housewife, a kind of life that never really existed for anyone except for a very tiny sliver of wealthy white women. But their messaging is directly targeted at young women. And this kind of content is very political. It has been fueled by a lot of right-wing conservative groups. And the messaging is check out of the workforce, get off birth control, have as many babies as possible, give over your agency to a man. You don't need to go to college unless it's to get your MRS. Someone just mentioned A Well-Trained Wife by Tia Levings. In the comments, Tia is my conversation partner at Barnes & Noble in Philadelphia. And she blurbed the book and called it Gone Girl, but make it trad wives. And so we're seeing this go from an internet meme to becoming a pipeline for young women who are trying to figure out their place in the world going forward. And it is very effective. A lot of these influencers are being groomed by Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk. And I just do not think that we can underestimate them. And so I wrote this book. I made it a pulpy, fun murder mystery, right? And I asked my publisher to make it a paperback so that they can, it's cheaper. You're going to grab it, take it to the beach. But it's got this messaging in it that punctures the fantasy of the trad wife that says this is not real. They are lying to you. They're hiding women's labor because working in the home is labor, cooking sourdough is labor, caregiving is labor. And they're making this all look super easy and super beautiful in order to convince women that this is better than the other dream that was sold to them, the lean in, the girl boss, the feminism, all of that. And pushing women towards the right wing. I genuinely believe that we are going to see young women move more right in the same way that we saw young men who were influenced by the podcast brosphere. And now these trad wives are luring in our young women.
Okay. While you were exploring this and doing all your work to start writing the book, what part of reporting was most disturbing to you?
The smoke and mirrors of it all. One of the things that I discovered is that a lot of these social media influencers they're not showing you their real homes. A lot of them rent homes. They rent kitchens to do all of this work in. They're shooting these things in a single day or a single photo shoot. They have videographers, they have photographers. All of it is essentially just like a major media brand company. And they're telling women, you shouldn't work. Your highest purpose is to be a wife and a mother. And yet, they're making money on social media off of your attention by selling you products. They're selling you high protein flour and egg aprons for $90. And capitalizing on this messaging that is telling women to check out, and not just check out of the workforce, but to check out of politics as well. And doing a lot of damage to reproductive freedoms and the fight for birth control at the same time. While they're making money off your backs, and frankly, a lot of their husbands are actually being supported by them at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's That surprised me in your book a lot.
Yeah.
When you look at this, they're packaging an ideology
Yep.
and making it feel like it's apolitical and even aspirational. What do you fear from that?
The fact that it's working, that's the thing. Because they are making it look so aspirational and so beautiful, and it works really well on the Instagram and TikTok algorithms, then these young women are seeing more and more of it, and really truly aspiring to it. I talk to a lot of young women in high school programs and college programs, and a lot of them are saying to me, I don't want the hustle. I want to check out. I just need to find the right man to take care of me, because that is what I deserve. And this is not about choosing to stay at home and care for your kids. Caregiving is work. Stay-at-home moms are the CEOs of their household. This is about completely giving over your agency to a man and not having control over your own life. And as we know, that is dangerous. Men leave, they die, or they lose their jobs. More and more men. I mean, I recently, as I was writing this book, my husband got laid off. I became the breadwinner in my family. And so it is a dangerous message, and it is working. And so I wanted to write this book kind of as a Trojan horse to make people see the reality behind these picture perfect fantasies.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to shift over to you, Jess, now. You're the queen of disinformation for years now.
Cool. I love
So
that.
what?
Do you have a, Jess, do you
I
have a
love that
t-shirt
for
that
you
says
too.
that?
I will now.
Okay, great. I'm going to make it for you.
Excellent.
So what makes this particular strain of disinformation? They've got it all wrapped up in vintage wallpaper and family values, but why is this so uniquely effective?
Well, okay, so before I get into the really hard and scary substance of it all, I just want to plug Jo's book because
Yes.
I read it in a single afternoon. We're going to talk about some really heavy stuff here. Like we're going to talk about like culture imposition of traditional gender roles. We're going to talk about like women giving up their agency. This is a fun beach read.
It actually
Yes, it is.
It's my favorite kind of thing because it's kind of like subtle indoctrination. Like if you're worried about like a young woman in your life maybe who is getting this kind of content, this is the book to buy her just because it's a lot of fun, not because she needs to learn anything or anything like that. It's so good. It can fly under the radar if it needs to. And I love a good whodunit. And so
Oh,
this is super fun. Super fun. Okay. Now to the awful stuff. Um, Everybody who watched the 2024 elections saw what happened with young men, right? We all know the quote unquote manosphere, which is basically just the like constellation of podcasts run by bros that are pretty misogynist or just kind of dopey, but like that is really been cultivated by the right. They've given lots of money to influencers, to podcast hosts, to people who they thought might carry their water, and it worked. So one of the really interesting things that happened in 2024, Democrats lost young men of every race, of every class. They just lost them all. It was pretty horrendous. That leaves a really big gender gap among Gen Z and younger millennials. It's the biggest in history. The gender gap means women voting for Democrats and men voting for Republicans. So you're starting to see a polarization among young people that's more similar to the kind of thing we see in like South Korea and Japan and Italy and places where they're having real crises of traditional gender roles versus women should get to do what they want with their lives. Some countries are really grappling with that. We sort of feel like we've already grappled with that, but if you talk to young people, that conversation is happening right now. Like right now. So the right needs a way into women. They cannot just they can't win with just the men, and you're going to wind up with a really problematic thing where women and men of a generation just aren't able to communicate with each other. It's already starting to happen on dating apps. Like you've seen all those articles about girls who are breaking up with their boyfriends because they voted for Trump, or realizing that your politics are incompatible and that means your values are incompatible. So they recognize this problem, and trad wives are their way in. That is how they are trying to get to the young women, and they do it in a few different ways. I've been watching this chat, and like it's already starting to come up. They're doing it by one, being aspirational, right? Like we know Martha Stewart is not telling me to stay home barefoot and pregnant. Like that woman is a business mogul. She went to jail for stock insider trading. Like this is not a trad wife, right? This is a woman who makes a very nice tablescape and thinks that she can tell me how to do the same. I would put Meghan Markle's show in the similar. So we're used to seeing content like that as women. That is not necessarily problematic. I like having a dinner party. I like throwing a dinner party. I want you to tell me how to throw a better, prettier, tastier dinner party. And I don't feel like I'm compromising my autonomy as a human being in consuming that content. So we're taking something that is already recognizable and very safe, right? And we're repackaging it. So when people see it the first time around, you're like, lol, look at that 25-year-old mother making like Cheez-Its from scratch for her kid. That's amazing that she has so much time. Hang on, she's making chewing gum? I gotta watch this. So I'm not thinking this is insidious. I'm thinking, wow, this woman has a lot of time on her hand. How on earth do you make chewing gum? Then it keeps going. So the other way that they're doing this is via the disinformation. So this is sort of tale as old as time. The anti-feminist movement, right? There have always been women who are standing at the forefront of progress saying no. You know, there are more of us in the wave, but the patriarchy doesn't uphold itself. There are always some women who are very loud voices. Lots of people, if you are older, if you're my age or older, know the name Phyllis Schlafly. This is going to resonate with you. These women are powerhouses. They are business owners. They are authors. They are national speakers. They are thought leaders. They are like recognized in captains of industry. And they present themselves as people who submitted their entire will over to their husband and their calling as a mother, and all they do is that. And that is the lie. They work. They work, they support their
Mhm.
family. These are business women. But when, you know, on my side of the screen, all I'm seeing is, holy crap, she knows how to make chewing gum from scratch. I'm not thinking that woman makes enough money off of this content that she can purchase that kitchen for rental. She can put herself in those outfits. Like the woman that I'm talking about is a specific woman. Her name is Naya. Her husband is a model. I'm gonna go ahead and guess the model husband whose name I cannot remember right now is not paying for that house that this woman does this content in. So you take something that's like normal and aspirational and very, very comforting to people, and then you spin it with this lie that it just happens naturally. Martha Stewart never said that things happen naturally, right? We know the effort that went into what she does. This says this just happens, this is just as it is. And the third way that they do it is sad because millennials, you know, I'm the oldest millennial, so I can speak a little bit for the generation, but especially the younger, like they had it bad, you know? They graduated college into a really crappy economy and it kind of never got better. Like there's just been one disaster after another for everybody pretty much 40 and under. That leads to a lot of burnout. It leads to a lot of burnout. It leads to a little bit of nihilism. There's this sort of sense that, like, what's the point in working this hard because I'm never going to buy a house. I'm unlikely to retire. I can barely keep my head above water. I can't afford to have kids. I can't, like, why bother with a career? And it's not too far to get somebody who's already in that mindset into, well, crap, if I can get a man to take care of me, isn't that going to be better? Um, it's a very attractive lie. But as Joe said, men leave and die and all kinds of things. It's a lie. You have to be able to take care of yourself. And they're just very systematically going at it from all of these different angles to peel off young women who they think they can get excited about traditional gender roles. So that's what's happening when you see those women in those kitchens baking those improbable, 17-layer cakes because their toddler wanted one. um think a little bit harder about what you're watching. It just requires us all to be. That's why who done it is such a good setting for this, because like we all
Mhm.
need to be a little bit of a detective here. Like we need to understand that we're being lied to and like look real hard at it.
It's
Well,
true.
just tell me though, is this a rebranded version of something we've seen before, or
Oh
is
yeah,
this new?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
None of these ideas are new. Like I mean, people who are older than me can probably tell me what the version of this was in the 60s and the 70s, where, you know, since the feminine mystique came out, there are people saying, no, actually the ideal is women at home, it's their place, they take care of the family, that's their highest calling. And if you just give yourself up to that, if you just give up on everything else, look how easy life is. And honestly, it's like some days I'm so tired, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I would love somebody to come make all of my decisions for me. And maybe if I were 23 instead of 43, that argument might work. So I get worried. I get worried about the young women.
Yeah, got to go get them. All right, Joe, let's switch back to you and let's talk about, the algorithms and what happens. I just read an article from Media Matters that they did a test. They set up a fake Instagram account using a fake email and clicked on one trad wife post. Within 24 hours, almost everything being fed to them was from trad wife or right wing political posts. And I couldn't believe that the algorithm worked that quickly. So, what are the platforms like TikTok, Instagram? How are they actively boosting this content? And are they complicit in what's going on here, or are they just clueless?
I would say it's that part of it is capitalism. It's pure capitalism.
Yeah.
So, we do see these kinds of accounts and this kind of content boosted by right-wing groups with very, very deep pockets. So like this content is getting shown to more people than, I'll post a picture of my book or post a picture about, a really awesome job promotion or something, and that is not going to get any engagement. But we also know that Instagram was created by young men who wanted to make money, who liked models. They created Instagram to look like Vogue. They wanted it to be beautiful, but beautiful in a very particular way. And so a lot of these trad wives accounts are highlighting women who are white, wealthy looking, skinny, quote unquote aspirational, in a way that we've seen in media for a very long time. So they work and they do very well. They also tend to have lots and lots of children. Children and pregnant bellies do very well for engagement on social media. I actually thought that one of my mantras for writing this book was I was like, make it more bananas. And so I'm like, I'm going to create an AI baby. And then I realized that an influencer had actually created an AI baby because she didn't want to wreck her body again by having another baby, but she wanted the Pampers brand deals from having a newborn. So she made a fake baby. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even writing fiction anymore at this point. I mean, I'm pretty much just a Sicilian psychic witch predicting the future is what I'm doing. But this content, and what you were asking about, like, is this just old? What is old is new again, right? We saw this after women went into the workforce in World War II. And then the men came back and the government was like, oh, we got to get them back in the home. And so we saw a concerted advertising and marketing campaign. Look at all these new appliances that's going to make it so easy for you at home. And all of these sitcoms making, domestic life look very, very idyllic. And that was not the reality for any woman. I mean, that is why we ended up getting the feminine mystique and why so many women were burnt out and miserable. And the other lie that is constantly being sold is a lot of the women that can do this, that can have a homesteading hobby farm, are already wealthy. Okay, they come from generational wealth. Ballerina Farm's husband is an heir to the JetBlue fortune. There are not just, millions of rich men waiting around to take care of women who want to live this trad soft girl life
on their farm.
On their farm, the average American man makes $70,000 a year, and the average family is spending $74,000 a year. And so like the math just doesn't math in this case. Most of us need two incomes. And even if we didn't, all of the policies that would make a woman's life better, easier, more idyllic are the ones are progressive policies. I mean, I say this all the time. I'm very happy with my life. I love my life. It doesn't look as shiny and pretty on Instagram, but I love the life I have now. I've been able to be a successful author. I have 3 children under the age of 8. Everyone saw them earlier. I had a naked baby on my lap. And I have that life because I was able to have an abortion at 16. I was able to be on birth control for 20 years. So I didn't get pregnant, with one of the terrible men that I was dating in my 20s, because I was able to have paid leave from my job and go back and have my job still exist. And because now I make as much money as most male authors. Like, those things are possible because of progressive policies. But I do not think that we're seeing the same kind of branding to show that you get to have choices and you get to have a great life as a woman on this planet due to these policies. It doesn't look as pretty on Instagram.
This is where it runs into capitalism, because nothing that you just described is capitalism. So the algorithm is not going to reward it. I just came back from a trip to see a friend who had moved to Copenhagen, Denmark, and I was inside a store. My husband was outside the store, and when I came out, his face was white, and I was like, "What's happened?" And he's like, "Okay, so I'm standing outside. There was a baby carriage outside. I didn't pay attention to it. This woman came out of the store. I heard a cry, and she picked a baby up out of the carriage, which had been left by itself, and walked away." We asked my friend, and this is just normal there. The outside air is good for the babies, so you just leave them outside when you go shopping. It is a culture entirely attuned to everybody takes care of every child in their immediate vicinity, and they don't have any crime, especially any crime involving those babies. Now, that sounds pretty damn idyllic to me. Like, that sounds like a trad wife situation. Like, that sounds like put it gauzy on the, are you kidding me? The whole village is going to help me out. Well, that's socialism. So we're not going to do that, because that's what happens in Denmark. So, like, if you really want to look at like an idyllic life for women, like Scandinavia is not a bad place to check out.
That's a trad life I'll get behind. Okay.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, tell me though, Jo, do you think the women who have these accounts, often they're not even the ones creating the content, they're just the face of what somebody else is pushing them to do. Do they believe in what they're promoting in this lifestyle, or is it really just for clicks, brand deals, and fame?
I think half and half. I think some of them believe it, but a lot of it is for brand deals. A lot of them know that this is what works with the algorithm. There was one trad wife for a while who used to post S&M videos, but then she was like, this trad thing seems to be working. Why don't I try this? We've seen a lot of people just doing it for the performance, for the deals. And again, they're purely capitalist, right? Like, they are making money off of the attention. Many of them now are running their own businesses, like I said, where they're selling you their products, but they're using this trad messaging and the money that goes hand in hand with that to keep pushing it. And then there are ones who are really being groomed by organizations like Turning Point USA. And I did see one question in the chat, are they pushing women to not go to college? 100%. Yes. A lot of these influencers are saying, no, just go homestead. Why would you go to college? Or if you go to college, only go to get your MRS so that you can meet your husband. I mean, those are things that are being directly pushed on young women when their gateway, when their entry point is, I just want to see them make those Oreo cookies from scratch, man. Or her skin looks really glossy and bouncy, and I want to know what she puts on her face at night.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you think about like them believing and doing this stuff themselves, the idea that somebody could be both a homesteading farmer, which if anybody has engaged in any kind of farming at all, that is one of the hardest, most time-consuming things on the planet.
Most time-consuming, hardest things. I had to stack wood the other day and I gave up.
Oh,
I'm just like, not for me. Not for me.
No. I live in upstate New York now, so I am adjacent to many people who have chickens, and every time we go, I'm just like, absolutely not. Point is, that's really hard work. That's really hard work that you have to be skilled to do. You have to know what you're doing in order to do it, and then you have to do it all day. Are you going to do that and be a video editor? Being a video editor is a completely different set of skills. Like, if you took an iPhone video of yourself in your kitchen right now, would it look anything like what you're seeing? Absolutely not, because they have an entire lighting setup. 9 times out of 10, that kitchen isn't even theirs. That kitchen is a rental, which they switch just tiny little bits so that each individual user it'll look like their own. You can't tell as the viewer that it's not theirs. And that kitchen, like a set, has room for a whole lighting rig, which is given to you. And that's why their skin looks so dewy. Which is why they're able to sell their skincare, which is fine if what we recognize is that we're watching a commercial. But we don't recognize that we're watching a commercial when we watch this stuff because it looks just like all of the all of the other sort of social media content that we would get. So our brains get lulled and then then the algorithm just kind of feeds you something a little bit more extreme and a little bit more extreme, and you're probably not going to hear anything about submitting to your husband completely until the 5th or 6th video that you've watched of this kind. So you're already invested because you already really need to know how the Cheez-Its get made. And then,
well, you just answered that. My next question was what happens in the
yep.
You answered that. That's what happens after you start to follow one account.
Yep.
But tell me, Jess, are the campaigns coordinated as far as being political and trying to push people to the right? Is this just organic disinformation, or is this intentional?
It's intentional. It's for sure intentional. But the thing that the right does really well is like not really organize everybody who's speaking in service of their goals. The left sort of like, we all want everybody to like say the right thing and don't say the wrong thing, and these are the 3 points you need to know about the bill. And I mean, you all recognize that impulse. The right doesn't do that. They just fund people that they think might advance their goals. Their goal is state imposition of traditional gender roles. Their goal is women out of the public sphere and back at home, so all of the money and the power can be consolidated for the few rich men that are already enjoying all of the money and the power. That's their goals. So if they think you might further that, they're just going to throw money at you. They're not going to make you say their top line talking points. They're not going to organize a Zoom where all of the trad wives get together and they get their marching orders and then they go out and they make their content. They really do. So in that sense, like, because in Ballerina Farm, that appeals to different people than the woman who makes the chewing gum, than the woman who raises the goats, than the woman, so they let you do your own thing, so they cast as wide a net as possible. And maybe I couldn't care less about the chewing gum, but man, do I love baby goats, so I start watching baby goat content. So it's intentional and it's organic, and it is absolutely designed to bring as many of us in as possible. And just remember that the younger you are, the more susceptible you are to this kind of thing, and that is who they're going after. It's the 25s and under.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I'll add, Turning Point really does groom these young women, and they're using culture as their entryway. They're not saying come for the politics, they're saying come for the culture, and oops, we're going to slip in the politics. It's why, one of their biggest talking heads, Alex Clark, switched her podcast to Culture Apothecary and is all focused on wellness, but then it's wellness with a direct pipeline to the right wing. And same with Charlie Kirk protege, Brett Cooper, who is homesteading with her cute little husband, and then, throwing in her politics about how all women should get off birth control. So it's so nefarious because they are grooming some influencers and coordinating with some, but then a lot of women are just making this content on their own. It's user generated content, so that they don't have to pay for all of it.
All right, let's move on to like spotting the lies and how do we push back, because it's going to take us when we see people in our lives. I have had people saying, did you follow, is this such a cute account? And I'm like, do you know who she is? Do you know what she's pushing? So either one of you can answer. My first question is, what are the warning signs that someone has fallen down the trad wife and right-wing influencer rabbit hole?
Prairie dresses.
Jo has one that looks lovely.
Very nice. And you look amazing in it. That is the sad thing. I bought one of these trad wife prairie dresses for my
milkmaid dress. I saw you do this.
Milkmaid dress. It has an actual corset and it pushes my boobs up to my neck. I wore it to Costco and these women just kept stopping me. They're like, you are so beautiful. You look beautiful in that dress. And I'm like, because this is what I wear on most days. And I don't get all the compliments when I wear this. And yeah, it's amazing. It's the prairie dresses, but then it's also, I think it's media literacy 101. It's like doing the deeper dive to be like, what are you selling me again? Like, what what is the purpose of this content? What are the links that you're trying to sell me here? And a lot of it is like homeschooling courses, how to be a Proverbs 31 wife, a lot of things like that. But it's coded. You're not going to see it in the first reel that you see. You're going to see it, like Jess said, at 10 reels down.
Once you're already invested, once you already
invested,
comfortable with this person, you already have the parasocial relationship with this person. So aside from the prairie dresses, I would look out for people saying something like, I just want someone to take care of me. Like
Yep.
that is the way that I worry about it showing up with like the people that I know. It's that exhaustion. It's that, has anybody heard the phrase stay-at-home girlfriend?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of stay-at-home girlfriend content, and it does not look like the trad wife content, right? It's sexy. But like the idea that you can be a stay-at-home girlfriend, which is hilarious, because like stay-at-home moms, you're doing a thing. Like you got a job. Like it's a big old job. It's a huge job. It's a full-time and a half job. Stay-at-home girlfriend, not so much, unless, your boyfriend really needs a lot of your time and attention. But that is a theme of the internet, is wanting to be a stay-at-home girlfriend. And it's a kind of cheeky, funny, I'm tired, I don't care, I give up sort of thing. But it's a gateway drug. And once you're into the, man, I just wish I could give up and have somebody take care of me, the trad wives are right there to be like, oh, that's totally a possibility. Here are the 6 steps to getting it done. So just, anybody who wants to rely on anybody other than themselves, I would call that a warning sign.
Yeah, there's
Right. And when it happens, what do we do? How do we talk to these people without turning them away and making them feel like we're attacking them?
Yeah, I mean, Jo, do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really tricky, and that's the thing. I mean, I do think that there is a branding issue for progressives right now. How do we make progressive policies seem attractive to this younger generation, and package them in a way that they're like, oh my God, yeah, that is going to give me choice. That is going to make my life better. That is going to give me agency over my own life, when the alternative, it may be a lie, but it's a lie that's working, and it's a lie that's really aspirational. And so I think one of the biggest things is to start a conversation and to not alienate people, to make the tent bigger as opposed to smaller, to show that we do want women to have all of the choices, being a stay-at-home mom. I hate the word stay-at-home so much.
I know.
Like, no one is staying. There's no staying when you're caregiving in the home. It was clearly a man who invented that phrasing, but welcoming women who choose to be ambitious about all different corners of life, and to say, these are the policies that will support you best. Like, let's talk through what you actually need to feel supported in your journey as a caregiver, in your journey as a woman who wants to climb the career ladder in a corporation, in your journey to be an entrepreneur. Like, what do you need to make that happen? Instead of using more exclusionary language or being very reactionary about women's choices. They also talk a lot about, you'll see a lot of this phrasing, and they'll be like, they claim this is oppressive, and then it's a picture of a mom holding a baby's hand, and that's just like straight up dis and misinformation. No one claimed that was oppressive. No one did that. But they are very good at creating this like us versus them thing, because then you're like, but I am a mother. She must be just like me. I also love my babies, right? And so they're very good at using also motherhood to draw people in. When women are at, they're like often their weakest and desperate for community, and desperate just for the village and for help. I mean, I know that I first found social media influencers because my second baby didn't sleep. And so I was awake with her all night long. It was 5 years ago. And I was scrolling Instagram because my thumb was the only appendage that I had free. And then I was seeing these picture perfect images of these women, and I was like, what do they know that I don't know? Because I'm covered in pee and poop, and like I've got a screaming baby all the time. Like, maybe I should buy their organic baby food recipe book. And that's what I was hoodwinked into it when I was at my most vulnerable. So I do think that these women are really targeting mothers and young women who want to be mothers. A lot of the misinformation that we're seeing is around birth control right now. If you talk to a lot of young women, I mean, even young women that you would be very surprised about this. They'll say, I'll never go on birth control. It'll make me infertile. I heard about that on social media. And so it's getting those young women to check out of the fight, which is again, very, very dangerous. So like all of these are the warning signs to look for, and the red flags.
Yeah. And I think in terms of like creating a space where people can ask questions and have conversations is the best way to quote unquote get people out of it, to counteract it. I wish there were like a you tell them this and then you tell them that and then you tell them that and then they'll get it and they'll be good. I wish that we had that. We don't have that.
Yeah.
The way that they work is by creating an insular system where you feel judged the second you talk about the content that you like or the kind of life you want to lead. They're like, hey, everybody in your world is going to judge you the second you say that you want to be a mom and that's the thing that you care about first. They're going to shun you, they're going to call you lazy, they're going to call you stupid, and you're not going to be able to sit with them anymore. And all you have is us. Like, we understand you and we appreciate you and we will be there for you and we will be the village to help you raise your kid. You don't need them anymore. So recognizing that that's what they're getting there. Honestly, it's basically the same thing that we tell somebody who has a loved one in an abusive relationship, you know? If you say to somebody, "Look, your partner is abusive. I can't stand to watch it anymore. You got to leave." You are guaranteeing that that person does not talk to you anymore about the relationship that they're in. We all know that there. This is very similar. Create a space, ask them questions. Like, ask them what products are being sold to them. Ask them what they know about the influencer's business model. You don't have to be judgy when you do it. Just how much money do you think she makes off of this kind of stuff? Like, do you think she believes this stuff, or is this an act? What did she do before she did this? Like, well, you can just have an interested, curious conversation. And then of course you keep up the proactive, here are all the amazing things that women do when they're able to take care of their own lives, and here are the women who are trying to be leaders and trying to make sure that we can, create the sort of life where, I don't know, we can leave our babies outside the store and know that the entire sidewalk is on board with that.
They're safe.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask though, like, I actually used Jo's book. I used Jo's book recently because it came up and I said, I just read this book. It's going to be coming out soon. You should read it too. Because what I found and what I didn't know is so much of this is fake. And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, I read the book and I didn't know how much of it was true. So then I did research and I found they're renting houses. They're not even their real kitchens. They get their kids together, bring in a bunch of change of outfits. Everything gets filmed in one day. It's not really their life. This is all staged. And people like you and I were buying into this. And it's crazy. We can't trust any of this.
The Real Housewives.
It's okay to say it that way.
This is a whole thing. Like, the renting of houses is it's a plot line on the Real Housewives Salt Lake City.
Is it really?
Yes, totally.
Watch that one.
Totally. Who's renting for it and who's like just, I think we all to a certain extent know that everybody's lying to you on Instagram. But it's very deliberate and very explicit. It's not just like, I'm going to show you the happy pictures and not the pictures of me sad. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about deliberate manufactured lies. The same way a commercial lies to you. You know those two people in the toilet paper commercial are not really married, right? You know that that's not really their house. Nobody is actually trying to fool you. This is the exact same level of artifice, without any of the transparency.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it does boil down to media literacy. I would love to see more media literacy classes in schools, in public schools from kindergarten. Who are the faces behind these accounts? How do they create these pictures and these reels? I was saying that I did kind of a gag reel, and I was doing a media appearance for Fox 29 here in Philly, and I dressed up in my prairie dress and I made Cinnamon Toast Crunch from scratch from one of these trad wife recipes, and it sucked. By the way, it was not good. It was not good. And I followed that recipe exactly.
It was a funny piece though.
It was a funny piece, but the cooking and the prep was 4 hours. I woke up at 6:30 to put on a whole face of makeup. And then even just making that reel, making it look good and editing the video was another 2 hours. That is labor and that is work. And we are not seeing any of the labor. And these women are pretending that it doesn't exist. And yet then they're saying, get off birth control, have more babies. because they're not showing the work of that either. They're just showing them running beautiful through a field barefoot, surrounded by chickens. And if any of y'all have chickens, you know you're not going to run barefoot through that field where there's chickens. No. No, you're sure not. They don't show the ticks and the mosquitoes and like just the real life of it. But with magazines and TV shows, we know those are fake. With Instagram, you think you're getting a portal into someone's real life, because it's also, you're seeing these pictures right next to a picture of your cousin's new Labradoodle.
Right. 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 And I'm seeing some racial questions coming in here. Yes, to all of them. Yes, there is a racial undertone here. Yes, they are targeting white women specifically. That is how they are trying to look. This is a political strategy, right? The same way that they went for the young men, they are now going for the young women. Who do you think the easiest marks of the young women are? It's us. It's white women. So that's what they're going for first. There are other strategies to peel off other demographics, and sure, you will get some women of all colors with this because that's what it's like to have aspirational content. You are also making sure that little Black girls and Latinas feel worse about themselves when you have this aspirational content too. That's just the collateral damage of it. But like, yes, this is designed to be marketed to white women. And yes, it is certainly a part of that like disgusting, we need more white babies overtone of a lot of the fascist stuff that we're seeing in this country today. That is a part of it. The men that they want to see consolidate power are white men. So yeah, everything that you're like, hey, is this happening? The answer is yes. all of your questions are correct.
So I will say, you know, Candace Owens also just recently launched her own wellness brand and like cultural lifestyle platform, where she is also espousing these trad wife ideas. For women of color, we often see a lot more soft girl content and stay-at-home girlfriend content. This kind of content is definitely, I mean, Jess is so right, is definitely made for and targeting young white women, but they are coming for all of us as well.
Can you think of a way that we can start to create some more like feminist, inclusive, pro-democracy content that's going to be just as compelling to make us want to click on it?
I mean, the algorithm is capitalist, so that's tough. Like, I don't know that we're ever going to have accounts that are feminist and not trying to sell you anything and not trying to make you feel bad, because when you feel bad, that's when you buy stuff. So if I have an account that makes you feel good and doesn't try to sell you anything, why would Instagram boost me? I'm not helping it. I'm not making it any money at all. So to a certain extent, no, we can't compete on that platform. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. And like what you do is like and engage with everything that Jo puts up. Like, think about the women who you trust who are sort of directly responding to this stuff and share it within your own networks, within your own feeds. Like, absolutely do all that. Do not cede the platform to them, but recognize that our power is in talking to each other. Our power, like always, is in friend-to-friend organizing. It's in having actual conversations with the people in your lives. So those of you who have women, you know, in their 20s, in their late teens, in your lives, ask them next time you see them, do you guys get this content? What do you think of it? Like, just open the question up. That's where the superpower is. It's not actually in the platforms.
And dissect it with them, right? I'm gonna drop a few of these. I don't know if you want to click them, because then your feed will be consumed by them, but I'm just gonna drop a few of these into your feed or into the chat so you can see some of these. I mean, Brett Cooper is a great example. She just launched, again, she was groomed by Turning Point and, you know, calls herself an aspiring homesteader. When she launched her own podcast recently, it immediately shot up the charts and became one of the most listened to podcasts in the world. And same with Alex Clark. It is that direct messaging to, you know, young women that you should be checking out of the workforce. Your highest purpose is being a wife and a mother. Don't concern yourself with politics. Like, these things, they really are working. I mean, I've thought about how to experiment with different things, right? And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book. And hopefully we're going to turn it into a TV show. We're pitching it to networks in the next few weeks. One of the scariest things that we have started hearing from some of the Hollywood studios is they're scared of going after the right. which is such intense bullshit given, you know, where Hollywood has stood for so long. But, you know, some of these studios were a little nervous to take a look at a project like this because they're like, we don't want anyone to think we're going after these trad wives. And I was like, first off, we're not. There's no judgment in this book except against shitty men and people who are lying to you. There's judgment against the lies. There's judgments against the deception. But I wanted this book to come out in paperback because this means it's going into Target and Walmart, which is a big deal. Because like in all over the country, in places that are bookstore deserts, it is going to be in like these mass stores. And it looks, I mean, it is a pulpy, fun thriller. So people are going to pick this up in July and take it to the beach and not know what they're necessarily getting into. And so it's going to spark conversation. And that's what we need to be having. We need to be pulling back the curtain on these kinds of accounts and saying what they're really doing, dissecting the lies. And then I'm like, could I create an Instagram account where I show all of the awesome things I do in a day when my kid's at daycare, right? Or like has like paid for childcare. I'm like, look at all these Pilates I can do. Look how good my skin looks because I have subsidized childcare. I mean, that would probably do quite well, again, addressing a woman's pain point, but I don't know what we can do besides, like Jess said, and like Sherry said, this grassroots like organizing, you know, pass the book to a friend, have a friend buy the book for their daughters, right? Let's hope we can see it on a screen because getting it on TV screens is really going to start to like spark that kind of conversation. And then, you know, saying when you see an account, be like, this just doesn't feel right with me. This information doesn't feel right. You can also report them to Instagram. That's the thing. You can report misinformation and mis and disinformation to Instagram, which, you know, we've been pushing a lot more people to do, especially around the reproductive messaging. When people are saying lies about birth control and reproductive freedoms, I immediately report those to Instagram, and Meta does take those seriously.
Thank you. All right, Julie Collins, we turn it over to you for some Q&A.
Okay, and there are lots of them. One thing that someone just asked is, does your book have book club questions?
It sure does.
I just dropped them in the chat.
Yeah.
They're really good too.
Okay.
I zoom into book clubs too. I mean, one of the things with Sicilian Inheritance, which was my book that came out last summer, I zoomed into about 1,000 book clubs, and I love having these conversations with people. So yeah, if your book club wants to chat, just let me know. I am around.
All right. Okay, so folks have brought up a lot of things. One of the things that has been like a recurring question for women who are victims of domestic violence or stuck in a domestic violence relationship, does that feed into this trad wife?
Well, I mean, if you think about what a traditional gender role does, it puts a woman in the position where she is incredibly vulnerable. She is completely dependent on her husband. And when you are completely dependent on a human being, that human being better be awesome, right? Like, there are some men out there that are really fantastic, right? But there are a whole bunch that aren't. And so if my physical safety and my financial security is entirely dependent on a man, am I really able to be like, hey, I don't like this, or I don't feel like it tonight, or, you know, I think I need more out of life? Like, no, because my physical safety and my financial security depends on him being happy with me and this marriage continuing as it is. So, you know, the Venn diagram is certainly like, it's the connection is there. It is not necessarily like, yes, all of these are examples of abuse, but this is, abusers want this for a reason.
Absolutely. If you talk to a lot of women who were not necessarily influencers, but were in very traditional marriages, like Tia Levings, who wrote the book A Well-Trained Wife, she's the first one to tell you that domestic violence is incredibly common and also very accepted in these communities.
So someone asked if the private school choice and push was heading folks into this trad wife life as well.
We think about how detrimental public school is to traditional gender roles, right? Like public school is where you are going to interact with a whole bunch of people who do not live. Like let's say you're the kid of a trad wife, right? At home, you've got all of this going on, and then you go to school, and there's 1,000 ways to be a mom. And you go to your friends' houses and you see moms that are working and dads that are home and moms that are great cooks and moms that are crappy cooks. And like that's the great democratization of the public school. Like that's why they're going after public schools so much. That's also where we interact with people who are not of our race. Otherwise, we tend to be terribly segregated. It is in public schools that we meet people who are different than us. So they got to take that away, right? Because as soon as you know that there are other ways of living, you might choose one. Can't have that. So we really need everybody homeschooled, right? Homeschooling also gives women, that you're done now. Now you've got all of the work you can possibly do. Now you have a full-time job as a mom and a full-time job as a teacher. And somehow you got to learn how to video edit in the same time. Like that's just, so it's got to be about homeschooling. It's got to be about private school. They have to dismantle public education if they're ever going to be successful in indoctrinating children.
And
Um,
one of the big trends too, they push for homeschool.
Yeah.
A lot of them are selling homeschooling courses as part of their like whole marketing scheme. And that also ends up being a gateway for a lot of young mothers too, who are trying, I mean, honestly, we're all just trying to make the right choices for our kids, right? Like we want to do the right thing. We don't know what that is. I was so confused with that first kid. I mean, now we've done, there's 3. I'm like, I'm sure they're all fine. They're good. But with the first one, you're so scared. And when they demonize public schools, when they push homeschooling, they're just capitalizing on your fears as a mother. And these accounts are very, very good at it.
well, and I did homeschool my kids for a year, so I understand, how that works. I joined a co-op of ladies who are quite different from me. So I'll just leave it at that. So somebody made the comment that women in the 50s and 60s were largely on Valium. I saw Quaaludes.
I think
saw
about
all
that
kinds
all
of
the
stuff.
time. Like whenever somebody's like, this was only a reality for a certain subsect of rich women, I was like, and they were drugged to the gills.
Miserable. My grandmother was a full-on 1950s trad wife girl, like with like the blonde hair and the 4 dresses, and she was miserable until that man died. Okay.
My mom used to talk about how you just checked into the hospital for a few days for exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we get that option now? I mean, no, because our healthcare sucks.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's a DRG for that, but I could be wrong. Do you think that the trad wives know that this is kind of a fetish?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think they're very smart branders and marketers. I mean, I think that they know exactly what they're doing and how they're capitalizing on that situation.
Whenever you see close-ups of somebody's hands making food or making a mess or putting food directly on the table or using any like all of that, like they're boosting their audience numbers with people who like to watch women do that, and they absolutely know what they're doing.
Yep.
This seems, I mean, I've watched, and I haven't watched the latest year or series, season, whatever you call it, of Handmaid's Tale, but this seems so Serena. Like when you see those, um, the beginnings of their Gilead, where they went around to college campuses, and at that point they were just a married couple. They weren't the commander and all of that. I mean, this just seems like this is, and Margaret Atwood has said many times it was not supposed to be a guide. It was just a book. Someone asked if trad wives are running for school boards. They seem to think that there was some kind of national push to put them on school boards.
Yeah, there a lot of these women are taking over school boards. They saw that it was a position that was empty. And we saw this with the Moms for Liberty takeover of the school boards. So yes, this is absolutely a thing that is happening.
And then there's an attorney who is watching who asked, do you think that one of the goals is to push back no fault divorce?
They've said that explicitly, yes.
Said explicitly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of this is about shifting the Overton window, and making things seem very normal. And it's pushing no fault divorce, it's banning birth control. Like those are all things that are like definitely already happening. And I love what you said, Julie, about A Handmaid's Tale. I mean, I watched some of these. I watched a lot of clips from the Turning Point USA conference. I watched a lot of clips from the recent Pronatalist conference, and even some of the things that I was writing in the book. Like, this feels like the lead up. This is the before Gilead, but not so far before. The like right before is what it feels like a lot of times.
Someone asked if there was a difference between the LDS ladies who are traditional and versus the Christian fundamentalists and the Turning Point ladies. So is there a difference?
This is the like let everybody do their own thing. Like everybody involved has their own pathway in. And if you are LDS, you are speaking to a different audience than if you are Christian, but you are saying a lot of the same things. You are just using the language that you know that religion is going to pick up and hear.
Yeah.
So, and I think you have already touched on this, you know, because there were so many questions about, is this just white? Is this just white? Now, there are a lot of ladies who have posted some names of some African-American women who are doing this. And then somebody brought up Candace Owens, and I mean, okay, we don't count her, but okay.
We don't either, Julie.
Y'all can have her. Anyways, somebody else asked if using culture is a soft form of power that's almost, I think, I can't read my own, I think it says indescribable or indiscernible. But I wasn't sure what they meant by that. Is using culture a soft form of power?
100%.
So is using culture a part of this? Is this supposed to be a culture?
Yep.
Yeah. It's using culture, using lifestyle content to shift people's politics. Charlie Kirk has famously said, "You win the culture, you win the war." And they knew that they didn't have traditional Hollywood celebrities, so they created celebrities on the internet. They courted the manosphere and the podcast brosphere, and they are using culture to win this war. They're using culture to shift the Overton window, and they're using lifestyle content. I mean, another really great example is EV Magazine, which is the Cosmopolitan of the right. It's a digital magazine. It's funded largely by Peter Thiel. And its content is 9 lipsticks to put in your beach bag this summer, and also diatribes trying to eliminate no fault divorce, and you should not be having sex until you're married, and birth control is terrible for your body. So they're taking all of this content that you would normally see just in a women's magazine, right? Which were flawed also, but that aside, and then injecting hyper political content into it.
A lot of talk has gone on in the chat about Proverbs 31. And someone asked, what is a Proverbs 31 wife? Well, it wouldn't be a trad wife, because in that section of scripture, she considers a field and buys it. She buys things for her home. If they're using Proverbs 31, they're using it incorrectly, because she's a businesswoman.
They're typically using it incorrectly. Yeah.
And so someone asked, isn't white supremacy also blended into this? So that's a little bit of a different discussion of what we were talking about. But yes, I think that, you know, I think
all of this is about consolidating power for white men.
Yeah.
That's the baseline of all of this. The goal is actually not about women at all. The goal of this is consolidating power for rich white men.
So they are definitely using fear for this. And somebody asked if a RFK Jr. staffer is pushing wellness cures.
There is an intersection between wellness, people who might be researching homeopathic cures for something, people who want to there's a lot of good reasons to be like, hey, is there too many preservatives in my food? The algorithm will eventually lead you to this kind of content. And RFK is like, he's sort of the leader of the movement where asking questions about what goes in your food turns into raw milk and
Julie,
no vaccines.
Are we over time?
We are.
We are. But I know there were so many questions in the chat.
Know.
There has been people in the chat who keep saying, you know, what do we do about this? How do we fight back? The answer has already been given. It is talking to your friends and family. There is no magic solution. We can't just suddenly create content that's going to go viral and like counteract this. That's just not going to happen. There are influencers out there. There are amazing influencers out there. spreading the word about this, but we have to deal with algorithms. We have to deal with political content being, shut down by Meta and other platforms. So the answer is what Red, Blind, Blue will always say is friend to friend organizing. It is having these conversations with your friends. I'm going to tell you right now, I work in this area, and my 20-year-old made a comment to me about, Mom, did you see this tradwife content? It's so funny. I was like, oh my God. Like, I did not realize a 20-year-old was, getting fed that. And so she and I had a very nice conversation about what was behind all of this. And she's like, oh yeah, I totally see that. But it was important to have that conversation because now I know she might mention to her friends if they bring that up, like what's really going on. So we need to think about, just like Jo and Jess were just saying, is that we need to have these conversations with everybody in our life and explain what's going on. So our guide, 160 ways to change the world without losing your shit, has lots of different ways that you can get involved in your local community. Friend to friend organizing is part of that guide. The other thing is just suggestions for other type of events. I'm going to say right now, get your friends together. Have a community event with people you know. If you have like a local organizing group, have a book club. Read her book. Ask Jo to come and talk to you. That is a great way to start fighting this. So, okay, that was my little rant at the end. Thank you so much, number one, for Sherry for bringing Jo to us tonight and running this event. Thank you to Jo and Jess for being part of it, and Julie for all of the questions you tracked tonight. There were a lot of them. Everybody have a really great evening.